Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. This is Robert Marzullo from Ram Studio Comics, and today I want to show you one. And I've been digitally painting a little bit more in Manga Studio lately, and I want to show you why I actually prefer it over. Well, in regards, I pretty much do most of my digital painting in Photoshop, but there's certain aspects that I'm enjoying with Manga Studio, and I think other people might like it. So I'm going to show you that real quick. So I painted this arm, and it started off as a sketch like this right here. I do like more of a study from looking at a photo, and I get kind of a pose down. Then I stylize over top a little bit more, and I'll do that a couple times. Especially if I'm trying to get a real comic book look. I'll just keep blue lining, and then I'll go to even a more stylized version to get to more what I think would look cool in a comic. Because oftentimes anatomy from just say a muscular pose doesn't necessarily have the right feel, I guess. It's sometimes you got to exaggerate the proportions to really make it look comic book esque or whatever. So, but this is more on the topic of painting. Let me know if you want to see a video where I show you more how to stylize traditional studies to more of a comic book fashion. All right, so I'll put another layer over top of my blue line. Actually, no, I'll do it below, sorry. And let me actually just use a pencil sketch, not a blue line. I'm used to inking that way. All right, so the one I like to use is the smooth watercolor, I believe. And I like to lay out a palette like this first, and then I'll take the base color, which can really be any of these colors, but then, depending on the character you're painting and the nationality, then you get the variety of tonal values. And keep in mind that nobody's skin is just one color. You've got to have at least, I would say 4, but at the very least 3, and up to 5, 6 different colors to make it look semi-realistic. Okay, so I'll base color it in with this. I like to flat the overall area in real quick. So that's what you see me doing here. A little bit messy, showing you my inability to color. Go outside of the lines every now and then. It all started here, folks. Coloring, trying to stay in the lines. Brings me back to when I was about 3 months old. Yeah, I started early. I was just a little baby and I started coloring. And everyone looked at me and they knew this guy, or baby, is going to be an artist. Oh God, he's eating those crayons. Get him out of his hand. Alright, so anyways, you base color it down like this. Real messily. But I love this brush. I'm getting ready to show you why. I just wanted to hurry up and get that down. This brush is amazing because you put down the color, and as you lighten up on the pull, you blend. And a lot of applications, you have to do that in two. You got to use 2 brushes. I think Painter's got some good brushes that does that, but we're not talking about Painter today, so we won't worry about that. So now you see I've kind of left some pencil lines to show me where my shading is going to be. So I just go in there, I put down some pressure and put the color down. I lighten up on the pressure and I blend it really quick. And I just go around. I'll do this kind of fast because it's really just that same repetitive process that I'm using. And past that, what comes into play is your knowledge of how the tones should work, how the where your hard edge shadow should be, where your soft shadow should be, how much blending, where the highlights go, all that. You can do any of this paint work inside any program. Okay, I like this one exceptionally well because of the fact that I can blend as I paint really quickly. It streamlines the process, allows me to move through the painting much faster. But keep in mind, you can do this with any program. I've seen really exceptional paintings even come out of like GIMP, or I've seen some exceptional paintings come off the iPad with the software Procreate, which is just a funny name, by the way. But so it's not the tool, it's the artist. These are just a series of techniques that you learn to implement in whatever program you're using. It's oftentimes, if you watch my channel, you'll see that I use them all, and the reason being is I just really like to figure things out. I'm just kind of nerdy like that, where I like to figure out the way the applications work. I'm always looking for the next best tool. So yeah, I'm kind of techie and nerdy like that, where I like playing with them all. But sometimes it can be a hindrance because you don't explore all the options of a particular program long enough, because they can all accommodate this stuff. You just have to find workarounds. Certain ones are going to paint better, certain ones are going to draw better, but they can all pretty much do it all, in my opinion. All right, so back to this. Sorry. So I basically, I'm trying to find I'm rounding out my form right now. Then I'll select, hold Alt. I'll grab was I here or here? I think it was here. This is more my mid-tone color. So I'll drop some of this in. Or maybe I already had that. Did I? Yeah, I think I was already using that. Whoops. All right, so this is more to my shadow. It's good to have a little bit of that reddish tone in there. You can see I kind of overdid it on the other arm. I wanted to do a warm-up sample and have kind of a reference point, but I did overdo the coloring in it a bit. I tend to oversaturate my paint work and then desaturate it when I'm done. I don't know why I do that. It's just one of my little hiccups there in my art style, but yeah, that's how I paint anyways. So I'm just trying to, again, I'm putting down a little bit of pressure. If I bear down really hard, let me show you something too, because I like to fully explain what I'm doing. If I bear down very hard, that's 100%. There's 80%, maybe 70. Kind of can't tell the difference. There's half. There's 30%. There's 10 or whatever, and there's nothing. But see how if I use nothing and I'm just using almost the weight of my hand, I get no paint, and that's what makes it really nice, because you can just use this as a blending stump as you paint. Control Z back a few times. All right, so a lot of pressure to get a nice chunk of paint down, and then soft to no pressure, and I blend it in. That's really all I'm doing, and it works really well, I think. I'll show you a couple other things, how I get it to look more finished, but I really just repeat that process, and I'm using the different tones here to round out the form. So I got my sketch line there to show me where my shadows are. Oh, sorry, that's somebody commenting on the YouTube channel. Thanks, guys, wherever you are. I'm not going to look away from the screen right now, but I will get to you in a moment. Yeah, I've been trying to comment and keep up with comments lately. It's getting unbearable. I'm trying to figure out how do I deal with that. Like, I'm thinking I may have to only answer, I don't want to say 1 out of 10 or something. It's silly, but because I want to answer more people than that. But I'm thinking I'm going to have to let comments build up about a certain topic and then address that, maybe, like kind of collectively. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do there. I'm going to have to talk to some of my other YouTube buddies and see what exactly they do to accommodate that situation. I actually never thought it would get like that on my channel here, but it's getting pretty hard to answer everybody. Sorry. Plus, of course, that's all I did was work here on YouTube. Okay, so there's most of the shadowing. I'm trying to feel it out. I want to get this red tone almost halfway up the muscles. Obviously, there's going to be different varying levels. Now watch this too. If I increase the overall brush size, I can blend all this kind of together and soften that all up. So that's kind of neat. Another thing that you can do is take the brush and actually pull into the shape of the muscle. So that's a really good way to kind of shape your shadows and then come back the other way and soften them. So you see how I was able to do that? Let me Control Z back. See, I'm able to pull those to the shape that I want and then blend this way. Nice and easy. Doesn't get much easier than that, folks. Okay, so now I'll do a little bit of shadow under the veinage here. Got to shade the veinage. I don't know why I want to call it veinage, but I do. So I will. So I did. Okay, so now let's grab the darker tone. Yeah, because I started with the very light, right? Yeah, and just so you know, obviously that's not going to be the very light. I just wanted to base color it. You could just either take this color here, go into your, your color wheel here, go lighter. You pretty much don't want to ever use white. If you do, you want to use it extremely sparingly, but it's nice and easy to hurry up and punch in those highlights. So I usually use a color that's really close to white, but still of the same, what's the word? A saturation, not value. Hue? The same hue, I believe. That's the right way to say it. Maybe. Alright, so just throwing these highlights in real quick to kind of round out the form. Flesh it out a bit more. Something like that. Okay, and then let's take the darker tone here and let's almost draw this in like we're tracing our line work. And you could have really started here or you can finish here. It doesn't matter. It's the beauty of painting. You can paint back and forth. I don't think there's really a right or wrong way to do this. Whatever you feel comfortable with, that's probably the right way. I just love how this brush just really blends it nice and smooth. I'm going to show you here in a second how you can smooth it out a bit more with the soft round brush. A lot of times that's how I have to do a good amount of my painting in Photoshop because it doesn't blend quite as well as this. I have to actually paint and then use a blending brush I created. So I go back and forth from those brushes to create the effects that I want. But the other way that you can always soften something up and blend your edges really quickly is just to use a soft round brush and sample the color, and I'll show you that here in a bit. But with this, I really don't feel you need to. It just does such a good job on its own that you kind of don't have to, but it's I'll show it regardless because it helps. I think it helps a lot of beginners that don't know how to blend their work and get the look they're after. The other way to do that is to use layers. Layers are a really helpful way to help blend your work if you're not used to doing everything on one layer. But keep in mind that can also backfire on you because I do this in Photoshop a lot. I get like a lot of layers going. So it doesn't really slow my system down. I'm lucky I got a pretty good setup, but it slows me down because I gotta sift through all those layers. And then if I get really into the piece, I forget to name my layers, and yeah, it's just a mess. Okay, so there's a good amount of our values or tones going on in there. And you just keep going with these colors, sampling, and keep adding to get the level of detail that you want and the amount of shading and all that fun stuff. Just obviously keep looking at it like it's a 3D object that you're trying to create. Okay, so now I'll get rid of my line work. See if it stands alone. It's almost there. And again, with no pressure, just the weight of the brush, or the weight of my hand, I should say. I'll just blend this in a little bit more. Remember, you can go back and clean up your edges by either erasing or painting, whatever you feel comfortable with. Now the other thing is this, to keep in mind that you don't have to keep sampling these colors over here. You can sample anywhere in the current painting and use that. So if you see a tone, I don't really like this tone, but say you like that tone right there, you can select that and paint with that. So once you get enough of your range of your colors down, you can just sample off the existing work that you've got. And let me drop my line back in there real quick because I need to get a little bit more of my highlights in there. So let me sample. Work on the veinage here. Always end up wanting to do these on another layer and blend them in. Okay, what else was I missing? You can also keep slowly lightening up your pencil layer, and it'll help you slowly work into your detail. Go ahead and select some of the darker tone from that one. Sorry, I'm getting quiet there. Trying to concentrate. Look into the painting a little bit more, see what I'm missing, because it's almost there, but it's just not, I don't know, just not as, missing something here. Not as dimensional as I would like, I guess. Well, even though I said not to, I'm going to select a little bit of white, but I'm not going to paint white like that. I'm just going to put a little bit in there for the highlight color again and sample from that and then blend out. And it's not that you can't use white, it's just you got to be very sparingly with it. Like if you're doing something that's reflective or specular, use just a little bit of white in the highest point and then quickly blend that off. Okay, now the other thing I want to do to this is give it a little bit of bounced light. It's always a nice way to round out forms like this. And, a lot of things have bounced light, if not everything, but the best way to do that is just take, all right, so we got the darker form here. We'll take this lighter color here. And just paint that in there and try to round out the form. Now the other thing that helps make it a little bit easier to work with your bounced light Okay, we just pick parts of this that we want to add that lighter tone to. Show the separation of the shadow there in between the highlight and the rounded form. whenever I do this, I kind of picture, I picture 3D the whole time. One thing I wanted to mention, something that I think is helping my digital painting as of late, which I got a long ways to go to consider myself some great digital painter, but as you know by watching this channel, this is all about the journey that I'm taking as an artist. I don't proclaim to be some big time, pro or whatever. So at any rate, but one of the things that I think have dramatically helped me evolve my abilities is to 3D sculpt. I use ZBrush now, but I started with Sculptress. And the reason why I want to make sure that everybody knows about Sculptress is if you can't afford ZBrush, you can't get some student copy or whatever the case may be, then go out and get Sculptress. It's free. It's really fantastic. ZBrush is just like this big powerhouse professional grade Big Brother version, and they were nice enough to make Sculptress for free, probably as a way to kind of get people in the door, which is really smart on their part. And it's amazing. I mean, it made me kind of really open my eyes to rounding out the forms and things, because you're sculpting or you're drawing in 3D, which is really neat. So I'd recommend doing that if you're trying to become a better digital painter. I would really recommend doing that, because it basically gets you to perceive things in a better 3D perspective, I guess. So, not sure if that'll be helpful for everybody, but like I said, I believe it's really helped me, so I wanted to share that. And I am not paid to say that. In no way am I receiving anything from the guys over at ZBrush. This message has been sponsored by ZBrush and Sculptress. Just kidding. Just kidding. Alright, at any rate, I cannot figure out, the veins look really bad on this, so let me try to soften those up a bit more. So like I said, I really like painting those on a separate layer. Shouldn't have to, but for some reason it does help me work through that. And my anatomy is probably a little bit off because I'm not looking at a photo. Which, keep in mind, it's a good idea to look at a photo while you're doing this. It's not I wouldn't say it's a great idea to copy the photo verbatim, but it's definitely a good idea to study the photo and the way that the light and dark works, the way that the highlights work, and then just draw in your own style. It's amazing after you do that for a while, you really won't need to copy the photo. Some cases, if you have to, you have to. It's not a big deal, especially if you throw enough of your own style over top anyways, but you should definitely study the photos just for kind of a guide, I guess, a loose guide as to what you're doing. And don't feel bad about it. You look at all the great artists, especially all the great painters, they all used models. So it's the same thing, really. But, don't trace all the time. It's like, it's good for studying, but you also want to grow past that where you don't need to do that. You would be amazed at what your artistic abilities are capable of. The human brain is an amazing thing. Okay, so let me step back, see if that's looking all right. Okay, so it's getting there. It's still lacking a few things. Actually, I need to define the tricep here a bit more. So I'll take this, just lay in a bit of the shadow, and you can see I don't even have the lines in there no more. I don't need to. I've got enough of that information down. Another thing to keep in mind is once you get enough of your data in there, and you've got the edges cleaned up. I still got some rough edges. You see that elbow's pretty funky. He's got like some kind of damage there to the elbow. Alright, so once you get it cleaned up enough and your edges are clean or whatever, you can lock transparency right here. So that's a neat feature because it allows you to now just paint within the confinements of your edging and not go outside of it, so that saves a lot of time. Let's put a highlight on the back of the arm here. And I'm constantly resizing the brush. I don't know if you can hear me hitting the bracket keys, but I'm hitting a little bit of a highlight, sizing it up and down to kind of blend. And that's just something I like to do. I don't know if it's something you have to do. It's just I always like to explain exactly what I'm doing when I'm creating this stuff. That way you don't sit there and try to do it and go, oh man, I can't do what he was doing. What the heck? You know, there's probably some small thing that I can't show you or that I forget to explain it at times just by doing the work. Again, select some of the corresponding color. I kind of painted that highlight in too strong. Okay, so now, what else can I do? This still isn't popping. It's, you know, it's looking just kind of plain Jane. What is the problem? A lot of times I just zone out when I start doing this stuff, and then it just clicks after a while. And that's something I think that you get from lots and lots of practice, because, you know, I have no life and pretty much all I do is draw. So, you know, that's the part that you get with that. Because you do it so much over time, something will kick in somewhat instinctively. You know, it's like I tell people, they ask me, like, you know, how do I get better? What do I do? You know, what do you recommend? And one of my tips that I find myself giving more and more to young artists that ask me that question is wake up drawing and go to bed drawing. Which sounds crazy, but you know, obviously make sure you spend time with your family in between. But something happens mentally as you focus on you know, something like that, and you wake up doing it and you go to bed doing it. It just really opens your brain to, I don't know, to being able to see into that a little bit more. Like you're almost dreaming about it. You're just living it. You know, it's just like in art. You know, they always tell you to live art. It's the same. It's really the same concept. But I think it's really important to never miss a day. You know, always paint something, always draw something, and you will definitely get it. Even though I'm struggling right now as I say that, but do as I say, not as I do. And that's my mother speaking. Okay, so I'm almost there. A little tiny highlight on this. I just want to punch the veins up a little bit more. I think it looks more believable with the veins too. If they come in and kind of fade out, you could tell it's the same vein traveling, but it kind of dances in and out of visibility, or, you know, whatever. Okay. All right, so let's pan back, see if it's almost there. I think it's actually the color that's missing. It's missing a little bit more of this reddish, or maybe this one right here. Let's try this. Let's see, I'm trying to stay in the mid-tone area with this. Well, another way we can do it, we've got transparency locked. I wanted to show you the airbrush anyways. Grab the airbrush. Let's go to shadow. Let's try to shadow with this color, see if that works. It adds too much of a yellowish tone to it. Let's grab one of the darker colors and try it. This adds a little more pink. I guess that gives it a little more life. Let's try the darker tone. And size the brush down. Just stay into the shadows. I think that's a little bit better. I think it's rounding out the form more is what I was after. And then let me try the red into the mid-tone area. Okay, and then lastly, I'll put it on highlight, and I'll grab the brighter color. And again, I'm just doing this to try to punch it up and give it a more impactful look, or kind of overly, I guess, over the top a little bit more. Yeah, it's almost there. So yeah, so that's pretty much it, folks. I mean, you know, I can keep playing with it and get it more like this, and you know, dance around with it for a bit. But that's predominantly what I wanted to show you, that you can do some pretty nice paint effects inside of Manga Studio. I guess one last thing in closing, because this looks like it has no real texture other than the brush strokes of me painting back and forth. One last thing that I would recommend if you're trying to incorporate more texture to something, you would just add a new layer, put that to one of the overlay methods, whether it be multiply or overlay or screen. You just have to play with these effects, but I want to say overlay would be a good one. I could be wrong. And then you would pick one of your texture brushes or create one. Let's see if I have, let's try one of these sketch brushes. This dust shader one should be good for skin tone. And you know, you could just paint in some tone there. I don't know if I like it highlighted like that. Let me see. Or maybe I just put it in too strong. Maybe just real light into the highlight areas. Let's zoom in and see if that's, yeah, it gives a little bit more realism to it, that little bit of speckling. You know, you're never going to have perfectly smooth skin. You know, I use oil of Olay. It does wonders, but it doesn't look this good. Close, really, really close. At any rate, so yeah, hopefully that's helped you. If it has, be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Let me know what you thought of the video and what you'd like to see in the future. As always, keep drawing, keep having fun, and we will talk to you soon.